What's up, Vankers?
Hello, Venkers.
How are you doing? How's everybody doing?
How's everyone doing? How's the croc? You got good croc there?
What
Listen,
is good
Venkers.
crock? I keep hearing
It's
about
just,
the good crock.
what's the croc? It's just like, what's going on? What's happening? Good chat. It's good croc, man. It's good. We had a good time. It's good croc.
Yeah. I'm upset. I'm upset that I'm learning about Eddie Jordan now, is all I'll say. I'm very upset.
Yes.
I'm very upset. I'm mad at Jenny, mostly, for not, she's in charge of the bookings, and
That's right.
this one escaped us. We got David Coulthard on. Eddie Jordan's right there. This guy's a fucking legend. He was right there. Oh my God.
I know, it really is. It's like this, Eddie. If you didn't see already, we're talking about the man, the myth, the legend that was Eddie Jordan. Obviously, it's terrible that he passed. What's more terrible is that we didn't get him on the podcast before he passed. That's obviously the bigger tragedy. No,
that is the biggest tragedy. No.
He was.
He's my hero.
He's the shit, man. He was so awesome in every way. He really kind of like had the exact ethos of like what attracts us to this sport, the characters that it brings. He had such red flags energy. He was a man who did things his own way and just never gave in, just always stuck to his own guns. So that's what we're going to try to do this episode. This is the Red Flags. We're brought to you by BetMGM, and Eddie Jordan would want us to say that because that was a man who was all about the sponsor, dude. That was a guy who was all about the sponsor. There are some amazing stories that we're going to get into.
I would say would you say he's more of like a benign, he is like the fun version of Bernie Ecclestone.
Yes.
They're like two sides of the same coin. Like Bernie Ecclestone is like all evil, kind of just ruthless capitalist, whereas like Eddie Jordan was the fun capitalist.
Yeah, he was like all the parts of Bernie Ecclestone that you like was just that was Eddie Jordan.
Yes.
He was like a distilled, like, just you boiled it down to the best raw elements. That was Eddie.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think let's just get into his life because, we've learned a lot more about him over the past couple of weeks since his passing. Actually, we're recording this on March 30th, which is Eddie's birthday. So he would have been, this is going to come out tomorrow. I did all this research
and I didn't know when his fucking birthday was.
March 31st.
My mom would be like, shocker, you forgot his birthday.
Yes. Well, let's start at the beginning. So Eddie Jordan was born in Dublin, March 30th, 1948.
In Dublin.
Year before my parents. My parents were born in 49. He was the son of an accountant. His father was an accountant. And when he was a child, he had a liver issue. And his family was advised to move from Dublin to Wicklow for the fresh air, which was such a I think that still happens, but that was such a thing that they did back in the day. They were like, just get out of the city.
That was their fix for everything back then. You need to take the humors somewhere else.
Yeah.
Take the fresh air. It's very it's giving Severance. Very, you have to take the air,
Yeah.
That sort
of thing. You gotta live by the sea. That's
when you had polio, they would like you need the sun. You need to get some sun.
Yeah. I have a prescription and it's for you to touch grass. That's my prescription. Yeah. Well, anyway, so he moved to Wicklow, and as a child, he attended the Sing Street Catholic School, which was very strict.
Brutal.
They were notorious for punishing misbehaving with physicality. Let's just
they
say
would whip your hand. The nuns would whip your hands with leather straps, and he was like, it fucking hurt. It hurt.
Yeah.
And he said it was very interesting. He was like,
yeah.
People will say, "Oh, you were abused, you're brutalized, blah blah blah," but you turned it in. Nowadays, the deadline. He was talking about this in his book. He's like nowadays the deadline. You miss a deadline. Who gives a fuck? Nobody cares. Fuck it. Back then, you were like, I got to turn it in because they're going to beat the shit out of me. People cared. Like, it was important. Like, in his mind, the abuse added import to the assignment.
Right.
Because he's like, kids these days, like, they don't get the shit kicked out of them if they don't turn an assignment in. So why would they? There's no incentive to turn the assignment. Brian, you would have gotten absolutely shellacked.
Destroyed, dude.
You wouldn't have any knuckles left.
Dude, thank God I was born in the generation that I was born in, dude.
Yes.
Of like, everything's participation trophies. We believe
no
you.
grades. No grades.
Hey, like, while you're taking the test, I'm actually going to leave the room and take the call. And
honor system. Brian thrived on the honor system.
I love the honor system, baby. I love the honor system, King. Anyway, so Eddie was raised in this type of environment, and he kind of had a few paths in front of him as a child of what he could do for a living. It was either be an accountant, like his father, be a dentist, like his grandparents.
Yeah.
His grandfather was a dentist, or he could become a priest. And these were kind of he
talked about that.
Yeah, these were the things that he was kind of weighing up. Like, am I going to be an accountant, a dentist, or a priest? Like, these are the options before me. And I think he actually at some point maybe studied to become a priest for like a hot second.
For half a second, because people were trying to convince him to be a priest. One of his friends was like, Eddie, not all priests are quiet. Priests talk.
Yeah,
like they're trying to sell him on being a priest.
Yeah. You're chatty Cathy. You can wax poetic.
Because Eddie, as the Irish say, had the gift of the gab.
Yes.
The gift of the gab. And, but he couldn't do it. But you know what's interesting is you'd appreciate this. As I read a book about Jackie Stewart was dyslexic. Mm-hmm. I was reading this book about Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali was like severely dyslexic. Lewis Hamilton, dyslexic. And they talk about how people who are dyslexic often excel in other things because their brain works in a different way.
Yeah.
And for Muhammad Ali, he was, they often see physical space differently. So I think that was obviously the case with Muhammad Ali and Jackie Stewart and Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
But and you, of course, and
me.
But
Jackie Stewart, Muhammad Ali, Lewis Hamilton, and Brian Muller.
Right.
This is the company that I keep, baby.
Yes. So, but in his book, Eddie was saying that he could see numbers differently. Like he could add up anything in his head, and that's what made him so good at sort of wheeling and dealing. And he was always playing with numbers in his head. So that was like
right.
Other than being able to run his mouth, that was his superpower, was numbers. I thought that was interesting.
And everyone just like loved
often have a superpower.
And he was just like, the guy was just awesome. He rocked. He also said like he never made deals in an office. Like he's like, I never made any deal in an office. It's like I was always on the move. I was always meeting people. I was making deals on the go. Like he was one of these guys. But anyway, so he decides he's not gonna be a priest. He's not gonna be a dentist. He's gonna be he works for the Bank of Ireland.
But I want to say in his autobiography, it's very important that the things that he shares with us, because he's not like Toto Wolff, who's like, I was this super entrepreneurial guy with this he's so down to earth with the stuff that he shares. Like he was like, Toto Wolff like talks about like his first deal, half this book is he's talking about trying to get pussy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, he was breaking down. He was like, so what you wanted to do is, we were in this sort of touristy town. In the winter, it was slow, but in the summers, it would pick up and all the English girls would come. And he said,
right.
And you always wanted to pull an English girl. He goes, English girls were way better than Irish girls. He goes, because the Catholicism, the Irish girls, he goes, you couldn't get far with an Irish girl. English girls, you get far with. And he called it pulling. He goes, we all pull. He's like spent like paragraphs about trying to pull English women and the difference between English women. This is in his biography. Wow. This is what's important. This is what is important for you to know about his life. And he's always talking about different people that he worked with and like their pickup rate with women.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just But that's what you think about when you're 20.
Right.
These are your
priorities.
Of course I trust this guy. Look at all the women he brings home.
Right.
He was talking about his favorite mechanic. He goes, "Oh my God, the women this mechanic pulled. He was the best mechanic, and he pulled women in every country." And he goes, and then he went, and he had a wife and kids back home. This guy was a legend. I was like, what is going? Like, that would never go in a Toto Wolff biography.
Right. No.
Ever.
He also said about his time, like, at working at the bank, he was like, I was the best at opening new accounts, like, hinting that he was, like, committing fraud. He was just like, I did.
Why does that make him commit fraud?
Well, I mean, sometimes it's just like, you need a new account. Like, it's like he's like hustling people into opening accounts that they don't even need. That was a whole thing that happened at Wells Fargo, I think it was, that they were just
really?
like opening accounts in people's names, and like he was just like, he was working the system. Also at this time, apparently he used to sell fruit to his classmates at school. He would sell used cars, like he was sell books, like he was always had a hustle.
Well, he was talking about he also said in his autobiography, like there's rumors going around that he used to sell smoked salmon that was past its sell-by date.
Yes.
He goes, that's not true. He said in his autobiography, he goes, that is not true. It was poorly packaged salmon. It was salmon that had not been packaged properly. Yes. There was no way of knowing what the sell-by date was.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been past the sell-by, but I never know. He goes, I never knowingly sold salmon that was past the sell-by date. He sold like extra carpet, so if you sold carpet to like a hotel and, there was some left over, he would like sell extra bits of carpet. He was always selling.
Yeah. And
part of the reason why he was able to start his karting career is because the bank, he was so good at the bank that they kind of let him move around if transfer, because he was so
right.
He was such a good salesman, and they were like, yeah, if you want to go transfer here, or, oh, you're out for 6 weeks because you fucking broke your leg.
Yes.
He gets into karting like relatively late. He breaks his leg.
Yeah. He's 20. Well, he's 20. He's 22. He competes in his first karting race. He gets obsessed. So then he's like, oh, I'm doing this all the time now. Yeah. And then go on.
He gets into karting and he explains in his autobiography what happened. So there was this guy who he's karting with who has one arm.
Okay.
Who drives with one arm and a stump. And he was like, this guy was crazy. And he would get into a lot of crashes, this guy. This guy got bored during a session or a race. Yeah. And he said this guy just decided to turn around and go the other way.
Oh my God.
So he said he's driving, and all of a sudden he sees this one-armed guy coming the other way. And he just fucking collides with this guy, and I think that one-armed guy was fine, obviously.
Yeah, right.
The drunk driver is always fine.
Yeah,
and then
always.
And he goes crazy, and his leg is broken so bad.
Yeah.
It's such a bad compound fracture. It fucks him up so much that somehow he suffers from the shock of this crash.
Yes.
And he got an infection. He got all this, this leg break was so catastrophic that he suffered from alopecia. And he lost, at 20-something, he lost all the hair on his head. And basically, he wore a wig since mid-20s.
Yes.
Which
that was so shocking for me to hear. that he had like 3 different wigs that he would wear, that like, because he had such this like full head of like floppy hair, and it was a wig
that he aged with, because it was gray. It grayed. The wig grayed with him.
Hair looked amazing.
It was a great wig.
Before wigs were good, like he had great wigs before they were good. Like now, with the technology and people, you see the things on Instagram. They glue the thing to your head. And you're like, oh my God, that looks amazing. He was doing this shit in the 70s.
Wow, yeah, he looked like Sean Connery and James Bond.
Yeah.
Well, that was a toupee. That was a toupee. He had like a full wig.
Yeah,
like he didn't have an ounce of hair on, like one shred of hair on his head, which is just shocking.
So
But,
that was so shocking for me to read when I found that out. Bankers, this episode is brought to you by BetMGM. Come see what's new at BetMGM. Score bigger when you win with boost tokens, odd boost tokens, and more. Even if your bet doesn't hit, we've got you covered with no sweat tokens. Sign up with BetMGM today and you'll have access to countless betting options, including new look, same game parlays, teasers, live bets, and so much more. Take advantage of these offerings and be sure to use the bonus code DADDY when signing up to receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet loses. This is an exciting season. Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris, who's going to finish? Who's going to win each race? Where's Yuki Tsunoda going to wind up? You can bet on all this with BetMGM, so do it today. Use the bonus code DADDY when signing up, and again, receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet loses. See you out there, Vegas. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 and over. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY for New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP for Arizona. 1-800-327-5050 for Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF for Indiana. 1-800-981-0023 for Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code DADDY and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.
Somewhere along the line, so basically he talked about the story that he met his. Did you hear how he met his wife?
No, I'm actually curious because I know a little bit about her, but not that much.
He met his wife, so he was like, he basically met his wife.
Her name was Marie McCarthy.
Yeah, she was an Irish basketball player.
Yeah,
like an international basketball player.
Because here's the thing, you have fun with the English girls, but you come home. Who do you marry? You marry the Irish girl.
You marry an Irish girl.
That's right.
It's like shiksas.
Matt and I have both dated non-Jews, and here we are.
back where we fucking started. So basically, he meets her. He's like, wow, she was so fit. She was really fit. And he added in the book that he was dating somebody at the time. That was he said her full government name. Who he was dating at the time. Her name was Mona something. Yeah, he was like Mona was good, but this girl, I mean, god damn. So what he did was he found out that she was like flying somewhere for like a game, like for some kind of tournament.
Yeah, she was like a professional basketball player. Yeah,
she was an international basketball player. So what he did was. He was like, security at the airport was quite lax at the time. And he said he got through airport security.
Yeah.
He told the people at the desk to make an announcement, said that she was needed at the front desk. So he got the airport to say, Marie, what was her name? Marie McCarthy?
Marie McCarthy.
Marie McCarthy, like, please report to the front desk. And she said she was mortified and panicked, embarrassed, young girl, 18. He was like 21 or 22.
Yeah.
She goes up to the front desk thinking something's happened. And it's just him, this guy she met at the bar, being like, I'd really love to take you out sometime. Yeah, That's how he fucking made his move on.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? He got airport security involved.
Back in the day, you could just kind of pull that, like, those grand romantic gestures were, but even still.
But like, how could you say no to that? If you're like the sheltered... I mean, if you're this sheltered Irish girl, you're 18 years old, and some guy just shows up to the airport, calls her name on the loudspeaker, what are you gonna? You gotta see that through, right?
Yeah, and certainly what that leads, what that says to you is like, this guy's. I'm not gonna be bored with this guy. I'm not. This
guy's gonna be a dull moment.
It's not gonna be a dull moment with Eddie Jordan. Yeah, so he starts,
and then he married off her sister. He sold. So he sold the guy. He sold this guy's this guy was like, I need to sell my house, and Eddie was like, I'll do it. I'll sell your house. I'll do it for half the commission. So he sold this guy's house, and he had just gone through a divorce. He's like, and I'll find you a wife. He was like, and I'll find you a wife. And then Marie's sister married that guy he was like, I'll sell your house and I'll get you a new wife.
Wow. There is a story of my, how my great aunt met her husband, is that he was Argentinian, I believe. Argentinian Jewish guy, was in New York for Fleet Week because he was about to go serve in World War II. And he gets into a cab, and he goes, "I want to meet some nice girls," he says to the cab driver. Cab driver goes, I know what to do.
What a beautiful time where you go to your cab driver to.
Yeah. He goes, "I know just the place to take you." So he goes, takes him to a strip club. And he goes, "No." He goes, "I don't want, no, I'm not like this. I want to meet some nice Jewish girls. I want to meet some nice, sweet Jewish girls."
Women of substance.
Yeah. He goes, "Hey, there might be Jewish girls dancing in the club. You don't fucking know." Anyway, he goes, "I want to nice Jewish girls." So the guy goes, "Okay, I know." Brings him to my grandmother's house because he was family friends with my great grandparents, and my grandmother and her sister, who was like a year younger than her, washing dishes like after dinner, and the cab driver goes, "Hey, I met this nice guy. His name's John. Come on in." Comes in, meets my great aunt. They were married for like 50 years. That's how they met.
Wow. Why? That is crazy that your great uncle or whatever stuck with the cab driver after the.
He said, I'm not from New York. I don't know. He was like, "I'm just here. He's here on Fleet Week. I want to meet the love of my life." And he did.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, isn't that an amazing story?
And that was the great aunt upset that's like, you took him to a strip club and then you took him here?
I don't know. I'm not sure, when that piece of information was found out. They might have only revealed that after the wedding. Like, who knows?
It's when exactly. Why is this guy covered in glitter that you're introducing me to?
The family story is that they did not go into the strip club. Who knows what actually happened? Who knows? Anyway, back in the day, you could just do, people met each other. It's a little bit different than swiping left on someone's fucking profile. Okay, let's get back on track. Okay, so Eddie starts competing. He wins the Irish kart championship. He starts then competing at a higher level. He's in the junior formulas. He even at one point tests an F1 car. He's in Formula 3 with some, heavy hitters. But then at a certain point, he realizes, he's married at this point. He's got a couple of kids, and he's like, I'm late to this game. I'm not going to make it as a F1 driver. He says, I'll either be the oldest rookie F1 driver, or I can be the youngest team owner, and I can use these other skills that I have, and I can do that. So he decides to do that. He starts Eddie Jordan Racing in 1979. He's doing Formula Ford, British Formula 3, International F3000, and he starts having success. He starts doing well. Martin Brundle's one of his drivers. He starts managing drivers. That's actually how he makes his money, is by managing drivers, taking his 10% or whatever it was of the contracts that he could wrangle for these guys. Famously, Senna and Martin Brundle had a shootout type season in British Formula 3 where Senna won. At one point, Senna tests one of his cars, and so he's making a name for himself in the junior formulas. And then it's kind of like, all right, at this point, I'm doing well here. What if I start a proper Formula 1 team? And he does. In 1991, he starts Jordan GP. And this is kind of where he becomes, this is where the real lore of him begins, because he gets 7-Up as a sponsor. And it's the iconic 7-Up livery, which you've maybe seen. The car is all green, and he lands 7-Up as a sponsor, and the car is going to be all green. So he starts looking around, and he says, let me get other sponsors that have green in them. This is like his way of thinking. So he gets Fuji.
The government. He gets the Irish government.
Yes. He gets like Fujifilm, I think he gets, and then he gets the country of Ireland. He tells them that he's painted the car green in order to honor the Irish, his Irish heritage. He lies to them. So they give him $1 million to be a sponsor for the team. The Irish government gives him $1 million.
If I was Ireland, once I saw the 7-Up on there, the giant 7-Up, I was like, that piece of shit. It's definitely because of 7-Up that he did it green.
Totally. 100%.
And then he changes it yellow later. Like his color, like he has no allegiance.
Yeah.
I mean, he's obviously a proudly Irish guy.
Yes. And I want to know that like his presence in the F1 world is distinctly Irish.
Yes,
the Irish have they were just even within the fact that the F1 at the time was also so British. It's like this guy comes in, this Irish guy, outsider, doing it himself, underdog. It speaks to the Irish ethos of like, we're the underdog taking on the big guy.
He looked like a leprechaun.
Yeah, he did. He did.
He was great representation for the Irish people.
Totally. And this is when they have an impressive first year. They get 5th, I believe, in the Constructors Championship in this first year. And this is at the time, it's not just 10 teams. It's like there are like 15 teams at this time.
Right, just qualifying is
not
just
everyone
like
qualified for the
race.
races.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But this is also when one of his more iconic things happens, which is that his driver Bertrand Gauchot is arrested for assaulting a cab driver, and he needs someone.
Do you know what he did?
No,
he did.
What did he do?
He bought mace in another country.
Oh, right.
He's French. He brought mace, and some guy, he got into an altercation with some taxi driver or something, and he maced him. He just maced him in the face.
Yeah.
And that mace was not allowed in that country. So it was like assault with a deadly weapon.
Yeah.
So he got thrown in jail for like a year or something crazy.
Yeah, he was out for the rest of the season. He didn't drive for the rest of the season. And so then he needed a driver for Spa.
But I think Eddie pulled some shit because he had like Gauchot had like paid for that seat, and I think Eddie was like, "Oh, snooze, you lose." I don't know.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think Eddie was fast to loose with cash sometimes.
Definitely. He was always kind of like working an angle with a loophole in a contract or whatever it might be. And this is when he gives the up-and-comer Michael Schumacher his Formula One debut at the 1991 Belgian Grand Prix. And
not
it's funny
for free. Not for free.
He said
Michael
Mercedes...
Schumacher. It wasn't because he saw something in Michael. It was because the check cleared.
He said, like, it's funny because in some interviews, he's like, I heard about this guy, like Schumacher. And then in other interviews, he's like, I had no fucking idea. I didn't give a shit who he was. I knew that I knew that he could drive, I guess, whatever. And Mercedes going to pay me to put him in the car. That's all I cared about. So I put him in the car. And then when he saw what he could do, because Michael obviously has this great debut, qualifies 7th, and everyone's like, oh my God, this is the new hottest prospect. And then he also kind of talks a little bit about, because Benetton, that Michael said that he was going to, go, he was like, oh, great, we'll take you for the rest of the year. But Benetton steals him from Eddie. But then he also talks about how, like, he didn't really give a shit at the time. He was like, I don't really care that much.
But didn't that create some kind of lawsuit?
Yeah, because he fought it in court. He fought it. He said he didn't care, but he's like, I did fight it in court. Let's be honest. Let's be clear.
Because he wanted a payday.
He wanted a payday. I think he did get some money for letting it happen. Ecclestone kind of arranged this whole thing because I think they got a huge viewership from the German audience, like at that Grand Prix, and he did so well. So they were like, this kid's gold. And
let's not keep him stuck in a Jordan. Let's get him to a proper team.
That's right. So Schumacher goes on to Benetton, where he would later win 2 championships. And Eddie was like, after realizing the talent that he did let go, he was like devastated. But even still, they come in 5th in the championship in their debut year in 1991. Mm-hmm. And this is also, but they're still like in debt. And they're still not doing well. This isn't a time where Formula One is particularly profitable. And there's this great story like around this time, because for the next few years, he's just trying to stay afloat. Like, they don't do as well. The first year they get 5th. Then the following years, they're like, 11th, first year 5th, 1992 11th, 1993 11th, 1994 they go back to 5th and 6th, but he's having to pay people because he's he's in debt with this team,
and he's taking out loans. He's having to robbing from Peter to pay Paul kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And he said at one point, this bailiff who's like a debt collector, he makes friends with this debt collector who is like every week goes to collect the money from Eddie because you got to pay off your loan that you took out to do this team. And he makes friends with the debt collector. The bailiff loves Eddie. And he gives Eddie like a little tidbit. He goes, if I knock on your door and you don't answer, then there's nothing I can do. If you answer, then I need the money. But if I knock on the door, if I stay outside your house and I knock for an hour and you don't answer the door, then there's nothing I can do, which is like, I like
it's a cheat code.
It's a cheat code. Because Eddie's so fucking charming. That even the guy who's supposed to get money, and if he doesn't get money, break his thumbs, is like, this guy's awesome. And I know that he's going to. And what Eddie said is like, he's like, I always paid my debts, He was on his Lannister shit. He was like, I always paid my debts. So not always on time, but I always made sure that they went through. But, yeah, I mean, he's kind of, they're hanging around. They've become a kind of a fan favorite, this plucky team. And then
they were the original Red Bull.
They're the original Red Bull. He's also kind of, we said this earlier, but he's like also has shades of Gunter in him. He's kind of an original Gunter in a lot of ways.
No, but didn't he was like the guy, he said that he wanted Formula One to be sexy.
Oh, yeah. In terms of vibe. Yes, he brought rock and roll to F1. He was a drummer himself. He had a few different bands. One was called V10s. And he would arrange for there to be like rock concerts after races, which like wasn't a thing. Now you go to Coda and Eminem's playing, or whoever's playing after the race, or on the Friday or the Saturday. Like Eddie was the first person to kind of bring that type of entertainment element into F1, and he was friends with all these rock stars.
He also had these like glamour models with him all the time.
Yes, he did.
And this is like an English thing, but apparently they were called like Page 3 girls.
Yeah.
And then one girl who became famous, I forgot her name, something Price.
There were a few different girls who became famous, yeah. I think it's Katie Price.
Katie, they were the original like Instagram. So Katie Price got discovered by Eddie Jordan, or was put on the map by Eddie Jordan. She did Page 3 stuff, which Jenny assures us is topless stuff.
Yeah.
So she
was a topless model. She was like a Maxim Playboy-ish model.
But they call them glamour models, which I guess Jenny assures us just means topless. And
she was OG Kardashian.
Dude. Kardashian.
She did that stuff before anyone else. She would sell her wedding pictures to the tabloids. She was, always, getting into marriages and and divorces and very public. She was a OG influencer.
But here's the brilliant part, is when she would appear topless, she would go by Jordan.
Right.
So this hot girl that everybody was lusting over.
Yes.
Her alias was Jordan.
Right.
So everybody associated Eddie's team with this really sexy and alluring girl.
Right. It'd be like if Kim Kardashian was Kim Haas. Or really, if it was like if Gunther Steiner had if it was Steiner Racing and then it was Kim Steiner.
Kim Steiner. Right.
Vankas, this episode is brought to you by Skims for Men. Yeah, did you know that they made Skims for the fellas? I didn't. Now I do, and I'm glad that I do, because I got a couple pairs of the Skims underwear, and they are amazing. They are strong but soft, if that makes any sense to you. I think with boxer briefs, I got 2 pairs of boxer briefs. I got the stretch 5-inch and the cotton 5-inch boxer brief, and they're both great. The stretch, great for a workout. They're firm, but they're also gentle. This is what Skims is offering you, and it's so important you have good pairs. You know those pairs of underwear where you look at them and you're like, yes, today is going to be a good day. That's what I feel when I look at my Skims pairs. My girlfriend's been, wearing Skims, talking about how great the products are. And I'm like, well, that's great for you. But, that doesn't mean anything to me. Now it does with Skims. And you can shop Skims Men at skims.com and Skims stores. Let them know that we sent you. After you place your order, select podcasts in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. It would help us out, feel great, and help out the red flags. That's what it's all about. And if you're looking for the perfect gift for your Valentine's Day or for yourself, Skims just launched their best Valentine's shop ever, available in sizes men, women, kids, and even pets. Give your pet a Skims Valentine's Day gift. What are you doing? Get on it and tell them that we sent you. Yeah, so they're making waves. They're making, they're this team. They're slowly becoming a fan favorite. And then they have this big break because they're kind of struggling financially. They have this big break. 96, he gets Benson and Hedges as a sponsor, which was a cigarette company. And this is around the era towards the end of the cigarette Marlboro livery time.
Bring it
the fuck back. Bring it back because the liveries were so sick. And this is also another story that kind of speaks to his genius. The cars, because the Benson and Hedges were like the actual cigarette containers were gold. So originally he paints the car gold to match that, but then he's like, the logo, the rest of my logos aren't really popping with this. Like, it's not really popping on track. So he goes through, he looks at all these different colors. He goes, we're not going to go gold. We're going to go yellow. Yellow's our new color. And that was kind of the 7-Up livery was iconic, but really Jordan became known for the iconic yellow livery that really stood out. The merch, everyone apparently at one point their merch was so popular that it outsold Ferrari. Because everyone fucking loved it. And he's and then they start driving well, and it's interesting because they became kind of known as the place where drivers would get their start. It was of the that's where the Saubers and the Williams and the Haas's are now. This is where the rookies go. Eddie kind of prided himself on being able to scout talent. A lot of his drivers went on to drive for Ferrari. Jean Alesi drove for Ferrari, Michael Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello, Eddie Irvine, and Giancarlo Fisichella, all drivers for Eddie Jordan, all moved on to Ferrari.
But Rob Smedley tells that story, and he told it on another podcast, but he said that Eddie Jordan, whenever he saw him,
yeah,
because he gave Rob Smedley when he was nobody, he gave him his first job in Formula One. He would see Rob Smedley and Fisichella and those guys, and he would say, "I fucking made you," and they would go, "No, Eddie, we made you."
Right. Yeah, he hired young people, not because they were talented, cheap. Because they were cheap. He could get young people to drive for him because they were cheap. And he, Eddie Irvine, kind of a classic Eddie Jordan type guy. Like, Eddie Irvine was a guy that only would have been given a chance by Eddie Jordan. He drove for Eddie in the lower formulas, Formula 3000. He was driving for him internationally in Japan. And he was making a lot of money because you could make a lot of money internationally in these series. And Eddie was also managing his driving career on top of, being a part of the teams that he was driving for. Anyway, Eddie needed a driver for the Japanese GP because they were not doing well financially. So he was just taking money from people to drive in the car. Just oh, you want $100,000? Who wants to drive for me? Anyway, they're in Japan. He needed a driver. He gives Eddie Irvine the call. Eddie Irvine is driving in Japan. It's wet. This is when Senna is ruling the paddock. Senna's leading the race. Eddie's starting is in 6th place, which is out of position for the Jordan. They're like, who is this Eddie Irvine kid? Senna laps him. Eddie unlaps himself. Senna laps him again. Eddie unlaps himself again. And it was this a rookie is out here unlapping Ayrton Senna. And after the race, they're all sitting in a room. They're getting drunk. They're having like someone's interviewing him. Senna bursts into the room, starts confronting Eddie Irvine. How dare you unlap me? Like, who you know nothing about racing. You're a fucking idiot. And Irvine, who like loved Senna, idolized Senna, is like, am I gonna bow down to the god here, or am I gonna like tell him to go fuck himself? And he goes, Senna, you were too slow. You're too slow. You didn't want me to unlap you. You got to drive faster. Senna leaps across the room, punches Eddie Irvine in the face. This actually happened. He leaped across the room and punched Eddie Irvine in the face. This whole scuffle, there was a recording of it that you can find and listen to. He punched him in the face. There's this whole kerfuffle. He leaves. And then afterwards, they're like, the whole room is like, that was the greatest thing that's ever fucking happened. Oh my God. Like, they're all so pumped. Like, Eddie Jordan was so pumped that his brash Irish, because Eddie Irvine's also Irish. They're both these two Irish guys who just like were punchy and loved each other. That like Senna came in the room, punched his driver in the face. They're all just like pumped up about it. That's just kind of like, this is the vibe of Jordan GP.
Well, it's flattering that Senna would punch his driver in the face. That means that
Right.
It mattered.
Yes, exactly.
They were relevant.
Exactly. So anyway, he gets this big sponsor. So they have the iconic yellow livery. They also would have these liveries where they would put like a snake on the nose of the car or like an alligator on the nose of the car. They were just like doing it different.
But it's also like how I would do it when I was 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, put a snake on the front.
It's total like juvenile wish fulfillment. Like that was the vibe here.
Put you know the S, remember when you do the S, the Superman S with the three
Yeah.
lines
Oh yeah. You're like, I'm a genius.
Yeah.
I'm a graffiti artist.
It's giving boobs with the calculator.
Yeah. Totally.
It's giving that level of sophistication, but it's cool. You're missing the greatest story ever, which is that DHL wanted to sponsor them.
Yes.
And they were like, yeah, you got to, if we're coming in, we're DHL, you got to be white because DHL's white.
Right.
And he was actually like, nah, you actually, giant company, have to change to yellow. And then he mocked up, he like showed them the DHL plane white, the DHL vans white, and then he like mocked up DHL yellow vans, mocked up DHL yellow planes. He goes, you see how that's better, right? And they were like, you're right. And instead of the dipshit racing team becoming white to suit DHL, DHL became yellow to suit the racing team. Every time you see a yellow DHL truck, it's because of fucking Eddie Jordan. That has probably bigger ramifications than anything other, like everyday ramifications than any other motorsport thing.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that truly is the most legendary story of Eddie Jordan. It speaks to how that man could just like convince anyone of anything. He could sell fucking ice to an Eskimo. He convinced DHL to be yellow
to serve his brand.
Yes, because it was just like more annoying than changing the livery of his two cars. DHL repainted every single van that they had. And he said
but he also I don't know if he
joked or not.
Onto something.
Yeah, he was onto something. He showed them like all the other delivery trucks that were all white. He goes, "Look, if yours is yellow, look how well you stick out. Like you will." And
he was right.
He was totally right. Totally right. He did claim. He said he still gets a royalty. Like last year, apparently, he said, I still get a royalty from that. A little bit of a royalty from DHL. Who knows if that's actually true or not? But yeah, no, it speaks to the man. But then then it's like, they're this kind of a little bit of a sideshow, but then they start getting good. And the 96, 97, 98, 99 season, they start to pick up podiums. Barrichello gets their first podium. And then in 98, they get a 1-2 finish at Spa with Damon Hill winning and Ralf Schumacher getting his second. They get a 1-2 finish.
Wow. Yeah, that was Damon Hill. That was his That was his banishment after Williams fired him after he won the WDC, and they were like, "Okay, thanks, bye."
Have fun at Jordan.
Yeah, fun at Jordan.
Have fun at Jordan. But then, so then it's like kind of their crowning achievement. They've won 4 races over their career. He won. Heinz
Fisichella
Harald Franzen in '99 won 2 races. He got 3rd in the World Drivers' Championship in '99. That was also the best year for Jordan. They got 3rd in the WDC in the World Constructors' Championship.
Why did I think Fisichella won one? Yeah, he won in 2003.
In 2003.
He won their last one.
Yeah, he won their last one in 2003. But kind of after the '99 season, that was kind of as F1 was getting, more popular, as Schumacher started winning those championships with Ferrari. It just became more and more financially difficult for a small, independently owned team like Jordan to hang around. And he kind of saw the writing on the wall and winds up selling the team in 2005 for $47 million. $47 million.
I know it's hindsight's 2020, but if he had held on for another, if he just held on for another 20 years,
20 years, yeah. Yeah.
Well, think about, because it's Aston Martin now.
Right. Yeah. The team is now the team that was Jordan, then, changed hands, is now Aston Martin. Yeah. Yeah. So he sells the team. It becomes Midland F1, which would then become Spiker, then Force India, then Racing Point, and now Aston Martin. So it's, it changed hands many times.
No, I mean, Eddie Jordan did all right because he was also a manager. He managed Adrian Newey's big fucking deal.
Dude, I mean, the man passed away this week, and a year ago he brokers the biggest deal in Formula One history, arguably, with Adrian Newey going to Aston Martin.
Talk about a buzzer beater.
Totally. Bankers, we are taking a quick break to talk about our newest sponsor, Huel. Huel is so much more than just a protein drink. It's everything that your body needs. All Huel meals and bars provide 27 essential vitamins and minerals, plus 100% nutritionally complete balance of protein, essential fats, carbohydrates, and fiber. They now have a product for every occasion, whether it's a meal on the go, a nutrient-rich drink, or a protein-packed snack. My favorite is the iced coffee black edition, ready to drink. It's incredible. It tastes like a milkshake. When I drink it, I'm so much less tired because it has vitamin B12 to reduce tiredness and fatigue. It also has vitamin C to support the immune system and contains so many other nutrients like the right amount of protein, essential fats, carbs, fibers, vitamins, and minerals. I like Huel because it requires no prep or cooking, so I like to have it on my busy writing days or when I don't have time to cook a full meal. If I'm on the go, Huel is the perfect thing for me. The best part is it's affordable and with high protein meals under $5. New customers, visit Huel.com/redflags today and use our code REDFLAGS to get 15% off your first order plus a free gift. Try Huel with 15% off plus free gift for our new customers today using my code REDFLAGS at Huel.com/redflags. Fuel your best performance with Huel today.
I know this is a tangent,
yeah,
but you know who really sold too early? The Williams team.
I know.
They got out. If they had just held on for like a couple more years.
Yeah.
Because how much did Williams sell for? Williams Formula One team was sold to Doralton Capital, a U.S.-based investment firm in August 2020 for a reported $152 million. Ooh.
Yeah, it's tough. That is a
fucking
steal.
Brutal. That is a fucking
That deal. Is basically free.
I mean, the biggest deal, honestly, is Toto Wolff got, I think, 1/3 ownership of Mercedes for
right. Yeah.
$50 million or something like that.
Yeah, that's.
But
that's
that was
crazy.
At least he got in at 2013, so he got in like Williams sold it 1 or 2 years before the big bump.
Mm-hmm.
That's like selling all your Zoom stock like right before COVID. It's just devastating.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Eddie talks about like he as much as he had his glory years in F1, he was like, it's the worst. He jokes it was the worst decision that he ever made in his life.
What?
Starting a Formula One team. It's like the amount of stress that he was under, the financial stress all those years. You know, he says like one of the proudest things of it. He's like, everyone got paid. You know, like I didn't leave anyone hanging dry. There were some court cases about some things, but you know, his employees. There was something with Vodafone at some point, but anyway, his employees all got paid. And I think it was just the amount of stress that he was under. But he stepped away from the paddock for a few years, comes back in 2009, worked for, I think, Sky, Channel 4. He's a, trusted member of the media side of things. He broke Schumacher coming back in F1. He broke that story. And he broke Hamilton going to Mercedes. He broke both those stories. Wow. Because he's Eddie Jordan. You can't lie to Eddie Jordan.
The guy's plugged in.
And yeah, I mean, he then was, he was, by the end, he was podcasting. He had honestly my favorite one of the only other F1 podcasts that I ever listened to was Formula for Success, his pod with David Coulthard, because he just was so fearless with his opinions. I mean, he just told it like he called it like he saw it. And he was doing it to the end. I mean, he got this, prostate cancer, aggressive cancer diagnosis, and he was sick the last year and still doing the podcast just because he loved it so much. And
the Hall of Fame hot take artists are him, Red Flags Hall of Fame are him.
Yeah, yep.
Nico Rosberg, Jacques Villeneuve.
Yep. Yeah.
Those are the three greatest.
Those are the three. Yeah, it's a huge loss. I think Bono wrote something for his memorial, because he was friends with all these guys. I mean, it's like he played music with George Harrison and Bono. He was friends with Ozzy Osbourne, the drummer from Pink Floyd. I mean, he was like he was this guy. He was just the most lovable dude, the most authentic guy that you could meet, and it's a huge loss.
It sucks that he wasn't around in this era where the personalities came through more on social media and Drive to Survive, because I think people would have really been drawn to him.
Loved it. Dude, he was famous for his personality before there was like anything. Right. Just because they saw him, like, there's this great when they got that 1-2 in Spa in '98, he's like running through the paddock, he's like jumping over, he's like unknowingly skipping, he's on the podium, he's just like covered in the, it's like everyone loved him, everyone loved this guy.
There was this great story that I heard, I think it was on The Race, where he was in like Singapore or some country, he was at some market, and there was a piece of jewelry that he liked. And he asked how much it was, and the person said it's X. He's like, that's fucking ridiculous. I'll give you Y. They're haggling with each other. Eddie leaves. He comes back. They haggle some more. He leaves. He comes back, and he gets it down to like this rock bottom price. And then they settle on this rock bottom price, and then Eddie pays full price for it. He just wanted to fucking haggle.
Yeah.
He just lived for the making of the deal.
Yeah.
I thought that was such a fun story.
Yeah.
About just him in a nutshell.
Yeah.
He had 3 or 4 kids, married to the same woman.
Yeah, for all of his, he was, by all accounts, a fiercely loyal, devoted husband. There is some clip, this is fun, like they did, I think Irish television does like a "This Is Your Life" is the name of the program, and they like kind of do like this big celebration of someone's life. And they bring all these people from his past. They bring back like one of the priests from his school, and Eddie Irvine, and the drummer from Pink Floyd. They bring in all these people from his life, and then his family and his kids are there. And then he asks his youngest son. He's like, "What do you want to do?" And he goes, "Like, I want to take over Dad's business." And then everyone laughs, and then he goes, "Oh, so when are you gonna do that?" And he goes, when he kicks the bucket or whenever that is. His kid's like, whenever you die off. I think the kid says, whenever he dies off, I'll take over the business. And then Eddie gives him like a fist bump. He's like, good one, dude. You just I don't know. They don't. It's he is they don't make him like that anymore, man.
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary. You know, he's around the age of our parents.
Yeah. Well, what he said was that he was like this, you know, he said it, he was like, this was preventable. He didn't go get checked. He was, you know, getting to the age where, you know, you got to get your prostate checked. You got to do all these things. And he wasn't doing that. He talked pretty adamantly about that. It was a big mistake that he had made, that he had done that. And he gave a lot of wisdom. If you can listen to some of his episodes of it's the only other podcast we'll allow you to listen to is Formula for Success, the Eddie Jordan episodes. But there's one where he
only
says,
the
like,
archives, only the
archives, where he says, like, what is it, BELIEVE, like, you have to believe, like, the most important thing in life is you have to believe in yourself, and he really was, the spitting image of that. He lived that philosophy till the day he died. So I don't know how to end this. I just he was an inspiring guy, I think, for people like us. I think
guys who are completely out of their depth.
Yes. Yeah. Guys who have no business being in the rooms that we're in. Like, that's, you know, but he believed in himself. I don't know, like, this podcast and us doing
feels
this
like
thing
a Jordan team. Feels like a Jordan.
We're the Jordan. I would be honored to be associated as the Jordan of the podcast, F1 podcasting space.
Well, you know what he said that was so interesting is, you know, just the little bits of wisdom that I picked up in the third of his book that I read.
Yeah.
I just kind of read till when he got to F1. But he said that he had very limited spannering ability. Like, he knew a little bit about, you know, how to
right.
He said that he was so bad at engineering that he kept something plugged in when he was in charge, and the car just drove out with all the shit like just plugged in and just hanging.
Yeah.
But he said that when he had this mechanic called John Boy that was always like having a night out and would never show up and just shacked up with some women, so he would have to fill in sometimes.
Yeah.
And he said whenever the driver would give him some feedback, he would take a spanner and just kind of like make a show of adjusting things.
Yeah.
And he said that more often than not, it worked because these guys are so in their head that you just have to make a show of changing things. And he was like, I think Formula One today, these guys are too in their head. They're too in the data. You know, sometimes you just got to tell the drivers what they need to hear.
Right.
And they'll go faster, which I thought was he has such a simplistic view of things. Like, yeah, just tell them you're fixing it. Don't actually fix it. It's all mental.
Yeah. I think at one point he told Ralph Schumacher, he said, like, you better get a top 5 or I'm firing you. And then Ralph Schumacher went to Michael Schumacher and his team and said, get me the fuck out of here. But that race, he did get a top 5. And then this is on his podcast and Ralph said, and he goes, but it worked, didn't it? Like, it worked, right? And Ralph's like, yeah, but I had to get the fuck out of there, Eddie. Like, you know, he was like, in Eddie's mind, he was like, it was all perfect. But, you know, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's, he was just, it's this guy who I don't know. I never met, who I don't, you know, have any personal relationship with.
I feel a connection to him.
I love him. I love him, and I am sad that we never got to meet him. But I feel like I know him. And here's to you, Eddie. May there'll never be another one like you, but may we all try. I guess so. I'll end it.
Rawr.
And yes, he always had his famous growl. So we will end with the growl. But first, as Eddie Jordan would want us to do, we got to thank our daddies of the pod. Because
this is for Eddie. This is for Eddie.
This is for this daddy reading. If you want to become a daddy of the pod, you go to patreon.com/TRFpod and become our benefactor today. And this is in honor of Eddie. We got to thank Kayla, Robin, Jordan Texera, Jade Lingle, Spencer Grieve, Javier Mera, Sheila Valeri, Chandler, Ali Santana, Carla, Juarlo, Kimberly, Huelen, Alonso of My Face 69, Donya Dana, Deadbeat Daddy Muhammad, Jimmy, Kimmy, sponsored by Mommy of the Pod, Howlster 584, Live Lot, Kat, Future Dog Tour Dion, Steph Grossi, JB Fresh, Laura, Emily Gillenwater, Cody Hull is my F1 daddy, Branch W, Keep Up the Signs Hate, Hunter Scruggs, Salmonella Mozzarella, I'm a Leclerc fan, and yes, it hurts. Jake Hess, George Russell is evil Peter Parker from Spider-Man 3. Matt Edwards is always right. I wish I was Max and Danny's love child. Delaney Andrews, Henry Caskey, Miles Lewis Alexander, The Real Toto Wolf, Maggie B, Kaylee Breyer, Eve with a Y, Aaron Fiber, Devin, a.k.a. the future Dr. Sullivan's PA, Courtney Frazier, Yuki Sonoda's other mother, Austin, Megan, Aaron, Pineapple with a Y. Matt has a secret boner for Carlos Sainz. Unfortunately, it's Gary. Carolina, my name is AJ and fuck the HOA. K-Mag can fuck smash my door any day. The official F1 race program and its executive editor, Sarah. I got tickled by the Tifosi. Hey, Jet, good luck out there. Allison Sane, Zhuge, F1 Dude Company, Trent Slickman, Code Brown Sonoda, Jerome Ferreira, Colapinto is a fraud, Aaron, Shahid, Jeans Rockstar Chohun, Shake and Bake, Catalick My Balls, and our newest daddy, Lisa Stay Fierce Smith, honorary daddy of the pod this week, every week, Nicole Piastri, and of course, this week, Eddie Jordan. If you want to become a daddy of the pod, go to patreon.com/TRFpod and become our benefactor today. Until next time, Bankas, we're going to be doing the Japanese GP. Yuki Tsunoda's going to get a podium.
That's what he says.
That's what I say. Rah, rah.